we as an industry have a challenge convincing the print service providers and the industry to back to the trade shows?
I think this is our absolute responsibility to show the universe of print, different business models, how to probably partner and take the win-wins of every partnership. And this is, I think, a big tendency observed not only on the visitor side, but as well on the supplier side.
It's really a one-roof approach to a print expo or printing expo. We're trying to put all technology together and all segments of the market together in one spot.
Drupa was cancelled last week, so I think a lot of vendors, a lot of exhibitors, a lot of media, a lot of people, attendees are all thinking about what are we going to do now? What are we going to do now? What are we going to do now? What are we going to do now?
We will be back tomorrow and show you more great things.
How has the show been for you guys?
It's been absolutely fantastic. The foot traffic has been amazing. The people that have come are actual real buyers. So many times you get the tire kickers and this has been qualified people coming through, a great volume of them, and really we're doing fantastic in the booth.
Would you say that your success is a mirror of how the industry is developing right now?
Absolutely.
Part of the event because it's all about automation from software, printing, and finishing equipment perspective. It is a must-attend event. In the industry, it's the only place where you can see all of this automated work together in the same place.
Well, welcome to our guest, Mark Supers from Printing United. What a pleasure to see you here. Early bird, right? You turn on your microphone, Mark. Turn on your microphone, please. You're muted.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I've been up for hours. So
for hours, okay.
Yeah, appreciate it. You and Anders.
You're welcome.
I take, Mark, that you are always busy, right? And if you don't have a trade show, you have something in your head for the next thing, right?
Yeah, I think that's just kind of the nature of who I am. I recently took some time and off just to get my mind off of business. And a friend has a beach house, and I went down and painted it for 2 days. And
that sounds great.
Doing their vacation, I'm like, painting is just a very mindless job, and I enjoy doing it. So yes, I do like to stay busy, and certainly, always challenging myself and the team to the next project.
One of the things I can't help think about is I actually think I wrote about it not so long time ago. I think it was a little bit unfair to you and your team's effort because Printing United in Dallas last year, that was like really a success, and then you have this stupid pandemic that takes everything out, right?
Yeah, it was quite unfortunate. We felt like we were just positioned so well coming into 2020, coming off of 2019. 2019 was to a certain degree that, that first, what are you doing here? You're putting out all the segments together, and if you can put ink on something, we wanted at the show. And obviously we had a great success, wall-to-wall sales in terms of, the Dallas Convention Center. We couldn't fit anyone else in there. And, we had about 30,000 people register. So by all accounts, a really good success. And we were really looking forward to 2020. And, and we were very positive about it. Obviously we do a lot of research, and base decisions on facts. And right up until about June, we felt very positive about directionally being able to run the show. And then, we were in Atlanta, and, you guys understand some of the riots we had over the summer. The COVID-19 pandemic, kind of flared back up. And we went in our stats from, yes, I'm looking forward to coming, to no way. Yeah. And as soon as we kind of got that news, we're like, okay, the people have spoken.
Yeah.
Okay, we can't have you with that.
So. Yeah, and that is, of course, something that is beyond your influence and beyond your control. But I was thinking that if from the outside, I know that you and we spoke a little bit just when you made the decision, but when from the outside, you can think that why are organizers from exhibitions like Printing United and Jewel, why are they not making the decision sooner, right? But I take that when you did the decision, right, that is maybe more important, that you relatively fast, actually very fast in my opinion, kind of reconsidered, okay, what can we then do?
Yeah, we quickly sort of pivoted and, leading up to those decisions. But I will say, even looking at 21, so we do roughly, including some online events, roughly across the Alliance, we'd probably do 40 or 45 events. Mm-hmm. Some of them live, some of them, and just even looking to 21, Morten, and saying, what's it going to look like? These decisions, like no one's going through these. There's no baseline. There's no data or baseline for these decisions in the COVID pandemic time period. So everyone's sort of just trying to read the tea leaves, look at what's happening. I'm very positive about what's happening here. We got federal FDA approval of a Pfizer drug, and now our first responders, starting this week, you see it, actively on the news and on social, are starting to take it. Okay, so that's very, very positive news. But yeah, having to pivot, fairly quickly and then decide, what are we trying to do here with this? And I will say, I will give kudos to Ford Bowers, who's the CEO of Printing United Alliance, where his charge with us was make it educational for our members and make it great.
Yeah.
Don't make it it wasn't about money. It wasn't about that. It was about make it great and make it educational for something. And the response to it was pretty phenomenal in terms of our numbers. I could share some numbers as of last week. I haven't gotten the report for this week yet, but as of last week, I'll give you one number that's kind of a wrap your head around. We are up to 7,800 hours.
Wow, of plays. Wow.
It's 2.7 years of 8-hour days.
Yeah.
That's an incredible number. Yeah, and we're bordering up on 9,000 registration. We're kind of in our phase 2 of promoting this across our brands, our printing and packaging brands. So we're still continuing to see engagement levels with it. So it's pretty positive stuff.
But you have one big problem now, and that is that if you have to turn the virtual into physical show, you need to do it every day the rest of your life.
Well,
Morten, that's not a problem, that's a challenge.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
I would take it to the next step. I'd say it's actually an opportunity. And I don't even think that, to me, looking at the landscape, I don't even think it's an option, right? So I don't, I look around and I say, and I hear people like, oh, do we have to do this or should we do this? I'm like, I think you're going to have to, because I think the value proposition for the printers, and for the OEM supplier community is that we need to look. Our North Star, as I think I've told you before, is our printer members. How do we best serve them? And so, what can we build that'll keep them educated? That was really the goal of the digital experience. It will continue to be the goal. And I definitely, I'm not going to share too much here, but we are deeply in some plans about creating and launching a hybrid that will be a lead up to live. And I think that I don't even think it's a nice to have these days. I think it's going to be a required.
See, another problem you just raised, and Andreas will in a second say that it's an opportunity. Basically, you have taken away some of the questions I wanted to ask you already. What a positive problem. Well, the reason why I thought it was interesting to invite you for this session is, as you know, just almost 1.5 weeks ago, Drupal finally canceled 2021, and then moving ahead of 24. I take that you more than most people can feel the pain that Sabine Gelderman had to take that decision, right?
Certainly, Morten, and we certainly are in touch with those guys, and when I got the news, I reached out to Sabine and to Anne, and I'm like, guys, sorry to hear about the news. I don't think it was necessarily. I think we were all hoping, but I don't think anyone was surprised that they had to cancel. Just given the state of what's happening with COVID and the timeline to the vaccine, and it just would be, a lot would have had to transpire in order for them to run the event. And certainly, we met with them in 2019. We're constantly in conversations. How can we work better together? How can we from the Americas help support, the show? I've been to, I actually listened to your to yesterday's shows, all of them, and I can't say that now. If I had Michelson behind me, I think he's been to every Drupa since it started. But, when I first started,
you too. Mark and I, we're so young that we have not attended all of them.
See, being 35, I
started in 1977. That was my first one.
Okay, so not all of them, anyway. Okay, that's fantastic.
Fantastic, but just a funny anecdotal story. When I first started, I've been in the print and packaging industry. With my parents had a publishing company that was involved in the industry, so I worked there as a kid, ran it out of college, but then sort of moved on, and now I've been with NAPCO for about 8.5 years. But my first assignment, you can think about the 8.5-year period. I was on the job about a week, and Dave Wiskuski said, "Hey, I need you to go to Germany." I go, "I'm not even sure I know where the bathroom of the loo is here yet in Philly." I said, "Okay, why?" And he goes, "Well, there's this show." I obviously had heard of Drupa being in the industry, but had never been. So he's just like, just follow Michelson around, you'll be fine, right?
Yeah.
So to me, Drupa still, it was a wonderful time. Dave gave me a laundry list of people that he wanted me to meet. A lot of our American colleagues that were there. It was a wonderful experience. Drupa is a great place. Dusseldorf couldn't be I gave my son a college graduation present and sent him to Europe for a couple weeks. And I'm like, you got to go to Dusseldorf.
Yeah.
Just do me a favor and go there. It's a lot of fun. So it's certainly, it's a shame those guys had to cancel, not particularly surprising. Certainly, even looking at what happened, in 20, having to push to 21, a lot of our strategy around our digital experience to a certain degree was sort of built on the idea that, Drupa tends to be,
of course,
right?
Yeah, because if you look at it from a Printing United perspective, I think that when you have the annual trade show on your agenda and compare it to the 4 years cycles of Drupa, I think a lot of
8 years,
Yeah, this time,
we
but
have to live 8 years without
Yeah.
Drupa.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah, but what I wanted to say is that a lot of the development cycles from the vendor side has been kind of grouped around the 4-year cycle, right? So when you had like your annual schedules, first of all, I think it's really great that you have this under one roof concept, because I think America needs a bigger show than we have normally seen, and by combining more business areas, I think that, and also you see crossovers in businesses having more, both large format labels and commercial under one roof. So why not have it in as an expo as well? But I also think from a perspective that, to be honest, I've sometimes been a little bit surprised that not more Americans went to Drupa. So when you have a big show every year, you have the opportunity to take the vendors to a location and create really a vibe like you did in Dallas, and to make sure that people get into that. And I think that is I think there's maybe been too many shows in America, and to that extent, when you kind of get consolidate in this area. I think it's really cool, and congratulate you. You know that we're working together on this. You know how much we appreciate doing that, and you also know that we have invested time in both Dallas and also, unfortunately, also Atlanta. But nevertheless, so I think that's a very, very good approach from your side. One thing, however, I would like to talk to you about.
Sure.
When we look at if you listen to some of the interviews, the conversations we had here, one of the questions, which is also in the topics of this, is essentially trade shows, media. Everything we do is based on needs from different stakeholders. PSPs needs to get information about equipment to make the right decisions, right? Vendors need to present the products in order to create sales. And media and shows like Printing United serve that purpose to bring people together. So, but a lot of vendors have actually reached almost their budgets, regardless of trade shows. Is it just because we're in a position where the COVID-19 have forced us to find alternative ways like the digital experience, or is it because the trade shows have not really followed the needs of the PSPs and the vendors?
In my experience, Morten, and having talked to so many of the OEMs and figuring out what we could do to support them, both from an event, a digital event perspective, and also from a media perspective. What I heard, because everyone came in with this, the economy in the U.S. was absolutely on fire. Okay, we were doing great, coming into February, and everyone had a really solid pipeline that they felt that would carry them through.
So we were saying that it was filled up before the COVID-19, and that is like the after effects of a good economy.
Yeah, I mean, we know that the close cycles on major capital investments aren't a month. Okay, these are investigated sometimes for up to 2 years before they make a decision and move forward. So when you have active step of sale clients and you've got a really robust front pipeline, okay, of people that you're just starting to engage with and you're bringing them through the process, you can continue to do things that, I mean, what's the purpose of working with media? What's the purpose of doing these events? Is to fill your pipeline and then have your sales team bring them through over time. So my experience with a lot of the OEMs was they had a really strong pipeline. Now, that being said, most people felt like that was really going to start drying up by the June or July timeframe. Now we're in December. Okay, so I think the bigger question is, what does 21 look like? How can we support? And I can tell you from the media side of our business, because I've actually still have active accounts that I refuse to give up because I do love working with my OEM partners.
Why am I not surprised?
Well, I like to keep my hand in it. I like to keep my ear to the ground, and I just think having those conversations with just some of the wonderful people that I work with at some of the major OEMs, I just never wanted to give that up with my new position. So I was really adamant about that. But when it came into the fall, a lot of lead gen activity that we would see that our media drives. A lot of, content marketing through our e-newsletters, a lot of webinars, a lot of things that are really lead generating is where we saw people starting to really spend their time and money because they knew their pipeline was drying up because you don't have your open houses. You don't have your client events. You don't have your Printing Uniteds or your Drupas. Okay. So if that's the case, then, people will find a way.
Yeah.
People have done some wonderfully inventive things, taking some of the budget that didn't happen at the events and reinvesting into some of these types of activities, building, full online demo centers. Okay. And continuing to do, because we know, we know the printer community, they love to see it. I mean, you mentioned it yesterday. We love to hear it. We like to see it. We like to see what's coming back end. Right. So to me, it's an idea, generator. I was at one OEM trip over in Europe in Germany. And I think one of the greatest comments I'd ever heard was we went down to the floor, wonderfully large, every piece of equipment that OEM had produced. And talking to a printer ago, I said, "What was your biggest takeaway?" And he said, after seeing that, not watching it on a video, not talking about it or reading about it, after watching it, he goes, "I have to rethink my entire business plan."
Yeah.
Like, wow. Like, what a comment, right? But it's the ideation that happens when you're actually live is something different, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that is actually one of the reasons why we wanted to initiate this conversation. I think that some people thought that we were intending to down talk the physical shows or films or virtuals or whatever. That has never been the intention. The intention was to have the discussion, because if we can define the needs, and you just expressed it so fine, that sometimes you just need to kick the tires, and sometimes you just have to you see things and experience things in order to put that into the perspective of your own business. And that is exactly what trade shows can do, and that is what also the corporate events can do, to sort of open houses and things like that.
Sure.
So I was, another question we also raised in our little video teaser was, do you think that the trade shows will soon return to the once glorious times, or will it take a long time, or will we get there ever?
It's a really good question. And, as I said, looking into 21, if I had a crystal ball, and I can tell you now, there's a couple positive signs, right? I mean, even before, the vaccine was approved, the FDA approval over here, we had our early booth selection, sales efforts in August.
So you already started that for 21.
Right. So we have that in August, and we shattered the record.
Oh,
the amount of booths that we've ever sold, by a fairly significant factor. So we came out of that with, roughly about 350, which is, greater than half of what we would normally see. And that was last August, right? So I think I can speak for most of us when we're like, I need to get out of the house. I need to go somewhere, right? And, where people are going to feel comfortable. And we're starting to see commercials now here in the States. I watched one last night, I think, for United or American Airlines, saying that's about the safest place you can be, looking at statistics and being in the air. I think we're going to continue to sort of see this return to some sense of normalcy. I think we're still going to have take precautions, as we go to live shows. But I can say that, and it'll be interesting, Morten, watching. So Orange County is where we're going to be, right? Down in Orlando, in October, 6 to 8. They're running a surf show. That's a pretty big show, and it's open, and they're taking the whole place, right? So I think what's going to be interesting to see coming out of that is, is that, do we track and trace and find out a lot of people were infected, or are we gotten so good, and have we gotten enough Well, that's in January. We're not going to have enough vaccine out in the market by that point. But if we come out of that and it's not a super spreader event, and everyone says, hey, look, we put 15, 20,000 people in an environment, and it was safe, right? Relatively speaking. We have to wait and see. So will we return? I think it's going to take some time, but I think things could accelerate fairly quickly. I mean, we got Dr. Fauci, which I'm sure is the, globally known at this point. He's talking about, having stadiums full for sporting events, over the summer. And he's generally a pretty conservative guy. If we see these types of returns to normalcy, I think in a business sense, we'll see these types of returns, to numbers as well. But again, that doesn't suggest that connectivity and engagement and hybrid models aren't going to be important. I think they will.
Because that is of course maybe one of the bigger takeaways from the COVID situation is basically that we have learned that there's definitely more models to explore. We spoke also to Adrian Meyer and also Dan Bronson yesterday about having the 3D experiences, 3D virtual shows, and as I said to them, I have been a little reluctant to them because I was like taking real environment into something that doesn't really appeal to me the same way as going and kicking the the machines I've just spoken.
But as you are too old school.
Yeah. It's definitely. That's true, Andreas. But you shouldn't put that in public. That is unfair. But my point is more that Adrian said that maybe it's not been so successful for them now in number of visitors and leads, but it's a starting point to engage maybe also with younger people, maybe with other types of people, maybe people from other parts of the world. And, suddenly if also with, I think that you got the experience from your digital experience that Printing United is not just an American local show, because you attract people from a global audience. So, I mean, it opens up a new opportunity business-wise as well, right?
It certainly does. And I to get back to the numbers that you had just spoken about, Morten, it was really interesting to see that 23% of our current 9,000, we're continuing to register people. So I think that will certainly, we're open through the end of January for the Printing United digital experience. I think we will eclipse 10,000, maybe even border on 11 by the time we're done. I can just see the numbers of people that are continuing to register and get the information. There's 96 hours and over 100 sessions. I mean, it's just, totally, taking on that project was.
I don't know. I don't want to hear about it.
Yeah. But, just to serve the markets that we serve, we felt that there's no way to encapsulate what we were able to do over that period of time. And so we made a decision to split it out. We split the commercial market into 3 areas. Offset, toner, and inkjet, because you can't have a reasonable conversation about all of them in a 3-hour and we just didn't want to have these 7 or 8 hour days. It just didn't seem reasonable to have people on. But yeah, it's going forward. It will be interesting to see exactly how everything plays out. I think we just have to figure out how people want to engage. This is new. Look, everyone's learning. Right. And I heard you talk about yesterday, we're learning new skills. I was not on too many online meetings. Now we have GoToMeeting and we've got Zoom and we've got Teams. That's all I do 24/7 is online meetings. So I think that we've gotten very good. We haven't been into our office in Philly since Q1.
Oh, really?
Okay? And we're not opening and possibly at Q2 and not before that. So everyone's learned new skills. Now I think what we have to figure out is, how do the printers want to engage with us, right? And how do they want to learn? The 3D model of booths, are we trying to replicate something that happens in a physical environment, as you had mentioned yesterday? When I go to my computer, I'm not expecting to Google something and get a 3D rendering of it, okay? If I want to go and see a 360 version of a car I'm trying to buy, maybe that's on the site, but as a framework, I don't know that it's all that valuable, because that's not how people use their computers, right?
But maybe we should see it more like, because I agree 100% with you, but maybe we should see that more like, I don't know how you felt. I can tell you how I felt when I was in Germany doing some films, and I was sitting in the airport on March the 9th, and Denmark and most of Europe closed down on the 11th, and 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th, I lost 500,000 euros of revenue. Ooh. So I think that what happens in these kind of periods is basically a lot of people exploring new ways of both ensuring revenue and communication channels and opportunities where people may not have, as you say, the bar is not really defined. You never really know what you can do, because with the success of your digital experience is fantastic, but just imagine if you were wrong. That would have been terrible, right?
Well, I had some sleepless nights worrying about that, Morten. So, but yeah, look, again, there's no baseline, right? What should we build? I don't know. Now, I will say, thankfully, we had the opportunity to watch a lot of major expos try to recreate in late Q1 and early Q2, try to recreate their expos, on a digital experience.
So you could learn from these.
They didn't do well, and that's why when we decided to do it, we led with education. Okay, I don't think, when we look at how we approach media, why are people attracted? I mean, why do people, are attracted to INKISH? You guys do really wonderful videos, right? And why are people attracted to our media brand? Because we bring value in well-written articles and stories and videos and blogs that attracts the folks in. So my thought was, how do we, well, first of all, how do we attract them with education? And then the second piece really was when Drupa ended pushing, what platform can we provide for product launches that were planned for 2020? Because, imagine you're the R&D team, you've been working on this thing for 3 or 4 years.
And then you're like,
they're going to launch, and they're looking at events, and all of a sudden, nothing, no ability to launch your product. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to provide a global platform for people to take all the hard work that they had done. We've had 75, 100 hours of some of those individual demos watched. Okay, across a global audience, that's a significant way to get your message out across a global platform of printers. So that was really what we wanted to do. We wanted to give a launch to that. And again, but how do we get those people to watch? How do we get them to engage? Well, we did wonderful research, and we did these wonderful panels and all this great content that you would see, normally at a live event. So I think it was, and obviously I'm sure you watched some of it, Morten. We tried to produce it at a very high level. We had a host each day that guided us through, and it was 300 pages and scripts, mostly of which I wrote. Okay, a lot of work, but a mission, is certainly a labor of love, and I think it played out really well. I think we have to figure out the engagement portion a little bit better to get our OEMs a little bit more involved, and we're working on that. Now I think there's a live event, there's a digital event, and then there's a hybrid. Okay, and I think we had to go digital last year. I think a hybrid is what we're going to, end up building for this year, that will have better engagement levels across the board and a little bit more in-depth, perhaps, content, and just more of a just an engaging concept across the board. But it's and by the way, on the way to the live event, because we're 100% moving forward. Super excited about Printing United. Like I said, our sales dictate that the OEMs are ready. I think printers are going to be ready. We'll base it on research. We'll base it on where we are, and I'll be able to sort of, I think, have some very good predictions about where we'll land, by the beginning of next year for sure.
But Mark, when I could mention that to find the best presentation stage is one thing. What we learned yesterday and this morning when we talked to our other conversation partners is they don't struggle with having a good relationship with their installed customer base. They struggle with the fact how to get contact to new prospects.
Yeah,
and I think that's the other side of the medal. Besides the fact that for sure they need a good presentation environment, and this is also my concern with Drupa since 2012, that they were not able to attract a new audience for those exhibitors, because the exhibitors changed their approach. They became from manufacturers to solution providers and then. So they need a new audience. And how to solve that issue? Do you have an idea?
Well, I think an interesting point to make on our digital experience, and we're getting some positive feedback and some critiques about what could be better, and that's where we're going to take all that into account when we're building our hybrid for next year. But one of the OEMs that invested probably the heaviest with us and put the most effort into what we were doing, interestingly enough, of their leads, 63% are net new clients.
Wow.
Really, really positive. So I think the hybrid event does allow us to reach a deeper audience, okay, and perhaps folks that might not get on a plane, okay, and come, or maybe we'll educate them enough or engage with them enough to entice them to now get on a plane, and when otherwise they might not. So that was a very encouraging stat. And again, we have no insight into who's on their CRM and who's currently a client. But that was one piece of data that I got back that I thought was great. And if we can continue that across 21 and into the live event, I think we have the ability to reach multiple audiences. I mean, we've got 230,000 people in our printing and packaging that subscribe and engage with our brands. Morten, as you mentioned the other day that 30,000 was a pretty low number, all things considering, for 2019. I mean, we have aspirations to go much bigger than that, given the audiences that we have and the ability for us to reach them.
Don't get me wrong. I don't think 30,000 is a low number. I'm saying that 30,000 compared to the size of the country, number of PSPs, the geography, the importance to the global economy, also from a printing perspective. That was more from that perspective of thinking of it. Mark, maybe a little too direct question, but I will ask it anyway. You can just nod your head if you say no, he's crazy. Would you like Printing United to be the American Drupa, where you have like a way bigger show floor space wise and more days and machines and running equipment more than you had on Printing United in Dallas?
Yeah, I think, I'm not sure I would necessarily say that we're the American Drupa, but I think there's definitely similarities in the fact that Drupa's never really been definitive. Look, I think let me step back for a second. The reason that there's such segmentation in our industry is not necessarily driven by the needs of the industry. It's driven run that. Okay, and they were, when the market was huge, when there were 58,000 commercial printers, a show for commercial printers was fine. Okay. Well, that's not the case anymore, right? So I definitely think we share a baseline understanding that if you're putting ink on something, okay, I don't care if it's a garment, I don't care if it's a wall covering, I don't care if it's a piece of paper, okay, a cling, whatever it is. If you're dropping ink on it, we want you at our show. Okay, and we see that convergence of printers. I think Drupa shares that too. They've packaging, commercial. It's always been welcome into their community, and I think we're basically the same way. 4 days. I don't know that we would ever go larger. I mean, Atlanta was 1.2 million square feet. That's a big place. Okay. Orange County Convention Center is 1 million gross square feet. Now I will say for Dallas, so looking at we had about 780,000 gross square feet to work with in Dallas, and we ran out of space.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay? We did not really engage purposefully the packaging. We felt 2020 was our real packaging because we didn't even approach some of the large OEMs in the label space, et cetera, because frankly, we didn't know where to put them. And 2020 was a larger space by 25%. I'm sorry, by probably 35 or so percent. More days.
I was more thinking of it because if you have to set up running equipment, sometimes that is a constraint, right? That you need to have more days both to set up, but then worthwhile doing it, then you may have to have more days because a demo on a machine running takes more time than sitting down and talk to your client, right?
Yeah, it does, and I think that the it's a balancing act, right, Morten? That what is the ROI for the exhibitor? Now, I think our concepts starting dating back to 2017, and then purposefully in 2018 when we took it to market for our 2019 event, was that why would you go to 4 different events when we can bring everyone to one spot? So right there should be some cost savings and some increased ROI. So obviously, the more days we run, the more expensive it's going to be.
Of course,
we have to balance that out and make sure that we're hitting it right. And look, we are an equipment show. We've looked at, hey, should we do more install days? But again, it's more expensive. And you know how these expos, the expos in the US right now are pretty brutal. Like they move you out, they're moving the people in like 2 seconds later. Okay, so there's not.
I've seen sometimes they take in out at the same time. I know that, yeah. Mark, I can't help think about some of the discussions, not just in these sessions here, but also in the past months have been about how PSPs are having some PSPs have difficulties in this environment, and that has led to mergers and acquisitions and closures and a lot of different business cases with different outputs. I think that when you look at all industries, they of course at some point needs to adapt to the demand for whatever product service is sold. And I know that SGI and PIA have merged into a really strong Printed United Alliance organization, where you cover a lot of from lobbyism to environmental programs to I think that what you have done during the pandemic to support printers in order to help them with legal packages and all that thing is fantastic. I was just thinking that do you think also that to some extent there's still a need to make are there too many shows in the world? And the reason I'm asking is because one of the claims I have, and the reason why I'm particularly fond of you guys, and also to some extent with the FESPA guys, is you versus Tarsus and Drupa, for example, are member driven. You are representing the printing community. Everything you might make from having a show goes back to the industry, right? And I think that maybe is a very important takeaway in the current situation of the market.
Yeah, that's certainly. I mean, we are mission driven. The event is certainly part of it. But yes, it's nice coming from that perspective. Going back to what I said about Ford, make it great and make it educational. And that
I'm a big fan of Ford. We have interviewed him a couple of times, and I think he's been a tremendous boss and leader, not just for you, but also for the industry in total. And that maybe underscores my question, because you have a huge appetite for growth. And I don't think the appetite for growth is just because of growth, but also because that power you can get by being bigger, financially influential, these kind of things, makes your position way stronger, right?
Yeah, and that's really the goal. I mean, if we were profit driven, it would be a much different scenario. Being a nonprofit is a very interesting, and I'm not saying we're not trying to be good stewards of what it is that we do. The more profit we drive, the more it drives back into serving the community, as you said. I think that Ford and James Martin have just done a wonderful job of really ramping up a lot of the efforts from the Alliance perspective. And you named a couple things: government affairs. Gary Jones working on OSHA, with OSHA regulations with the PSPs. I mean, there's just a wonderful amount of education and training that they do with Joe Marin leading out. It's the PIA SGIA merger into the Alliance has been a very positive thing. It definitely is the position or the trend that's happening over here in the States for sure. I think things need to be right sized a little bit and maybe consolidated down. I think that I'm hoping that trend continues. I think there's a lot of value, and again, like you said, if we are able to do more, that just is going to be serving the market in terms of that. So yeah, I mean, I think we are mission driven, and it's nice to be able to do that. I mean, I think we always talk about what's our North Star. Well, North Star is the printers. Period.
Yeah.
I have maybe a stupid question, but when you want to run really let's say the most important event, analog or hybrid or whatever, do you think people expect that you should also have a kind of thought leadership? Because in my observation, when Germany, where I'm living, is the home country of trade shows. And when they started, they had a good expertise on the topics they are covering. Today, their portfolio is so wide, they don't have an expertise anymore. And even in Düsseldorf, they don't have print experts. They need third parties to give input. And I think that's different in the way you are organizing your community and your events. So at a certain point, I would expect that you have thought leadership. And I as a let's say, if I'm a PSP, I want guidance and I want to follow your ideas. Is that Is that okay for you?
Yeah, I think that's definitely, I mean, look, as being their member organization, yeah, of course we want to be able to provide that type of thought leadership. I can tell you, I think it probably makes it a lot easier for us because we're ears to the ground all the time in every market we serve. We've got brands that are there, right? We've got, committees that are serving those markets. We've got input constantly from a lot of different sources. So I think to be able to serve the market in the way that we do, having that kind of position and really not just the position of thought leadership, but the engagement with the PSPs to understand what they need, on a daily basis, right? I mean, we get feedback. I mean, our editors are out there talking to these folks all the time, okay? And so we have a really good beat for what I think people want to see. But yeah, I think it makes it more difficult, certainly, if you don't have a sense of, then you're just an event coordinator. Right. And that's not who we are. We don't really run events outside in other areas. Now, NAPCO Media's got some brands that are doing some wonderful work in the retail area, et cetera. But when it comes to the printing and packaging side, that's what 100% of our focus is on. So I think from that perspective, it's best that we can provide thought leadership, but I think we can also deliver what the communities want. And again, the community is a really good word there, because that at the end of the day is who we are, and what we're trying to do is, create communities and have engagement with those communities and connect together all the folks in the particular communities.
On the last note here, I have a question, and you may think it's a little bit stupid or strange. Again, I'm sorry. I was thinking that when I think that yesterday, I can't remember who said that, but that's to some extent when you have a trade show, obviously some of the big names are the ones that really attracts a larger audience. I mean, if you have Canon, you for sure know that you have a lot of people coming, because they do attract a lot of people. So the big companies who also, for example, in Drupa, Canon and Heidelberg and Konica Minolta and these kind of companies, they withdraw from Drupa not very soon, but relatively soon from the 21 edition, and that has probably also given some pressure, because if you don't have the big ones who have the many square feet, what happens to the small ones? Because the small ones are not attractive enough. But I think that the industry also needs this seeding of innovation and innovative approach, where you may not have millions of dollars to participate. Because one of the things I like about Drupa is also that they had this innovation cube and these this startup scenes, things like that. Is that something that you could see yourself in a role where you also make it maybe attractive for small exhibitors that would normally not go to a trade show because it's simply too expensive, or because we need to feed the next generation, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an opportunity. There will be an opportunity in 21 for a multitude of engagements with us. Morten, I think that you guys had said yesterday in some of your sessions that some of the best info you get is between the big rocks, right? Between the big exhibitors. You're like, wow, I didn't know that existed. And that's
how you and I met each other.
Yeah. Some of the magic happens there, right? Where you're sort of walking between folks that you have on your checklist, and you sort of wander up and down the aisles, and something catches your eye and you go over. To provide a hybrid and a live environment. I mean, I think we're in really good shape right now. Most of the major anchor, if not all the major anchor OEMs are with us right now. I mean, I think for 21 and going forward, I mean, there's obviously the dearth of opportunity for them. Drupa's not going to be now for several years. Printing United, to me, to a certain degree, as I look across the globe, stands as a bit of a beacon on what might be that next major all segment expo, because I can't really look at anything else and say, okay, this is what it's going to be. So I think there's going to be a lot of appetite. As I had suggested before, we shattered our record for the amount of OEMs signing up in our early booth selection process. So I think that's a good sign. Again, we'll see what happens over 21. But yeah, we definitely want to support everyone in the industry. And I think that, pulling together a hybrid, which gives them, constant engagement with the printing community. And again, it's not only for the OEMs to support themselves, but also for the printers to educate themselves. I mean, we really love to create, the Google of the printing industry, if you will, right? Where this is the first place, one of the guiding principles of the Alliance is, where you come for printing. Okay, you think of printing, because I think some of the challenges in our niche industry, it's a big industry, but it's niche. If you go on and Google inkjet, okay, you get a little desktop inkjet printer, right? Because we're niche, but we want to be able to, create a taxonomy of describing the industry where if you come onto our site and you type something, you're able to get the information very directly, if you're really looking for something. So I hope I'm answering your question.
You do. Thank you very much.
We're definitely in for supporting everyone, and love the idea that we can grow folks. And the idea is, hey, come with a 10 by 10, 20 by 20, maybe by the time we're in Vegas, in 2022, that, you found some level of success, both, on the hybrid platform and live, where you'd even want to expose, have a bigger booth and bring more equipment and more sales folks, etc.
Mark Supers, it's been a pleasure and an honor to get your insights. What I always feel very naked when I talk to, not literally, to Americans is that you're so good at English, I have to say.
Well, I would hope so. I've been doing it for 54 years. So.
Also want to wish you and your family and your team a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I look very much forward to see you again. It's always a pleasure to hang out with you and Amanda and the team. So thank you very much. And thank you for taking time to be part of our little Learn With Us session.
I appreciate the opportunity to talk at health and happiness in 21. I think that's what we're all looking for. So the best to you both. And I look forward to, getting together in a live environment. So
thank you.
Thanks a lot. Stay healthy.
So much. Appreciate it.
Stay safe and healthy.
Do we as an industry have a challenge convincing the print service providers and the industry to back to the trade shows?
I think this is our absolute responsibility to show the universe of print, different business models, how to properly partner and take the win-wins of every partnership. And this is, I think, a big tendency observed not only on the visitor side, but as well on the supplier side.
It's really a one-roof approach to a print expo or printing expo. We're trying to put all technologies together and all segments of the market together in one spot.
Drupa was cancelled last week, so I think a lot of vendors, a lot of exhibitors, a lot of media, a lot of people, attendees are all thinking about what are we going to do now? What are we going to do now? What are we going to do now?
We will be back tomorrow and show you more great things.
How has the show been for you guys? It's been absolutely fantastic. The foot traffic has been amazing. The people that have come are actual real buyers. So many times you get the tire kickers and this has been qualified people coming through, a great volume of them, and really we're doing fantastic in the booth.
Would you say that your success is a mirror of how the industry is developing right now?
Absolutely.
We needed to be part of the event because it's all about automation from software, printing, and finishing equipment perspective. It is a must-attend event. And the industry is the only place where you can see all of this automated work together in the same place.